Hey guys, tonight we're slipping into a world of white glove luncheons, country club Saturdays, and mahogany panel libraries where the ice in your highball never melts too fast. We're talking about the 1960s, specifically what life was really like for America's wealthiest families, the ones who summered in Cape Cod, wintered in Palm Beach, and somehow made three-car garages feel modest. These were the people who lived in houses with names, not just addresses, who had staff quarters and formal gardens and dining rooms used only on holidays. Before we step inside, take a moment to like this video and subscribe if you enjoy these quiet journeys into the past. And drop a comment telling me where you're watching from and what time it is there. I love knowing someone in Kansas City is watching this over breakfast, while someone in Melbourne is settling in for the night. Now go ahead and get comfortable. Dim the lights if you can. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft steady. Sink into your chair or your bed. Really sink in, because tonight we're spending the day inside a world most of us only glimpse through iron gates or magazine spreads. Have you ever wondered what it actually felt like to wake up in a bedroom larger than most apartments? What did the air smell like in those grand entrance halls? How many people did it take to keep a house like that running? What did children do all day in homes with ballrooms they were not allowed to enter? Did anyone actually use the formal parlour, or did it just sit there, perfect and untouched, waiting for guests who never came? What did Sunday dinner taste like when someone else planned it, cooked it, and served it on china you were not allowed to touch? And more than anything, were these families actually happy, or was all that wealth just a beautiful, isolating kind of pressure? Well, congratulations. You've just woken up in 1963. You're wealthy, enormously so. Your house has 2 staircases, a name plaque by the front gate, and more bathrooms than people. The housekeeper is already brewing coffee in the kitchen. Your father is reading the paper in his study, and somewhere upstairs, your mother is deciding which pearls to wear. The day is just beginning. You wake slowly. Your bedroom filled with a kind of soft morning light that only comes through tall windows dressed in heavy drapes. The bed beneath you is enormous, a 4-poster carved from mahogany that has been in the family longer than you have been alive. The sheets are crisp, cool, pulled tight each morning by someone whose name you know, but whose face you barely register anymore. Your room is not just a bedroom, it is a suite, with its own sitting area, its own bathroom done in pale pink marble, and a closet larger than most people's kitchens. The ceiling above you is high, detailed with plaster moulding that catches the morning shadows. You blink slowly, adjusting to consciousness, and the first sound you hear is birdsong drifting through the window your mother insists remain cracked open at night, no matter the season. Fresh air, she says, is essential. The air smells faintly of lavender sachets tucked into your pillowcases and the lemon polish used on the furniture every Tuesday. You stretch beneath the weight of a down comforter, your toes brushing against sheets so smooth they feel almost liquid. The mattress does not creak. Nothing in this house creaks. Everything is maintained, oiled, tightened, perfected. You turn your head and see your school uniform already laid out on the velvet chair near the window, pressed and perfect, the pleats sharp enough to cut paper. On your nightstand sits a small silver tray. Carolyn, the day maid, has already been in while you slept, silent as a ghost, and left a glass of orange juice and a folded note from your mother, reminding you of piano lessons this afternoon. You prop yourself up on your elbows and sip the juice. It is fresh squeezed, cold, slightly tart. You have never tasted the frozen kind that comes in cans. You do not know it exists. Your bathroom is just through the adjoining door, all pale pink tile and polished chrome. The towels are thick, monogrammed, replaced daily whether you use them or not. You pad across the cool floor and turn on the tap. The water comes out hot almost immediately, steam rising into the mirror. You wash your face with soap that smells like roses, Dry your hands on a towel that feels like a cloud and glance at your reflection. You look like your mother, everyone says so, the same dark hair, the same serious eyes. You're not sure if this is a compliment or a warning. Back in your room, you move toward the closet. It is a walk-in, lined with shelves and rods and cubbies for everything. Your dresses hang in order, school uniforms on the left, Sunday dresses in the centre, play clothes, though you rarely play any more, on the right. Your shoes are arranged on slanted shelves, each pair stuffed with tissue to hold its shape. You choose carefully, knowing you will be seen today, not just by your parents, but by the staff, by your teachers, by the mothers who pick up their daughters after school and assess you with quick, practiced glances. You dress slowly, methodically, each button fastened, each sock pulled smooth. Your mother has taught you that sloppiness is a kind of disrespect, a sign that you do not value what you've been given. And you've been given so much. The room around you glows softly in the morning light, beautiful and still, a kind of perfection that feels less like comfort and more like obligation. Before you even leave your room, the house has already been awake for hours. Downstairs, the housekeeper has brewed coffee, set the breakfast table, and begun the quiet choreography that keeps a home like this running. The cook is reviewing the day's menu. The gardener is already outside, trimming hedges into shapes so precise they look like they were drawn with a ruler. You do not see most of this labour. It happens in the background, invisible but essential, the way gravity holds everything in place without asking for credit. By the time you descend the main staircase, your hand trailing along the polished banister, the house is humming with quiet efficiency. You can hear the distant clatter of pots in the kitchen, the soft swish of a dust mop in the hallway, the faint murmur of your father's voice on the telephone in his study. The air smells like coffee, toast, and the faint citrus of furniture polish. Everything has been touched, straightened, perfected before you ever see it. Mrs. Henley, the housekeeper, passes you in the hall. She's a tall woman with silver hair pulled into a tight bun and an expression that reveals nothing. "Good morning, miss," she says, her voice pleasant but distant. You return the greeting and she continues on her way, a ring of keys jangling softly at her waist. She's been with the family for 15 years, and you know almost nothing about her. You do not know if she has children. You do not know where she lives on her days off. You know only that she keeps the house running with a precision that borders on miraculous. In the kitchen, Bridget is already at work. She's younger than Mrs. Henley, round-faced and quick-moving, always humming under her breath. The kitchen is her kingdom, a large, bright space with white tile and copper pots hanging from hooks. She's rolling out dough for tonight's dinner, her hands dusted with flour, and she glances up as you pass the doorway. "Morning, sweetheart," she says. Warmer than Mrs. Henley, more familiar. You smile and wave. Bridget has been here since before you were born. She made your birthday cakes, your Christmas cookies, your first attempts at scrambled eggs. She's the closest thing you have to warmth in this house. Outside, you can see Mr. Wilkins moving slowly across the lawn, his back bent, his hands steady. He's older than anyone else on staff, maybe older than your grandparents, and he moves with the careful deliberation of someone who has been doing this work for decades. He does not speak to you. He barely speaks to anyone except your father, and even then only about the roses or the hydrangeas or the particular problem of crabgrass near the tennis court. But the gardens are his, and they are perfect. Every morning without fail he is out there, coaxing beauty from the soil. You pause at the bottom of the stairs and listen to the house. It is alive in a way that has nothing to do with you. The clocks tick in unison. The floorboards creak under the weight of someone moving through the hallway. A door closes softly somewhere upstairs. This house does not belong to you. Not really. It belongs to the people who keep it running, who dust its corners and polish its silver, and make sure the flowers in the entryway are always fresh. You're just living in it, a guest in your own home. You come downstairs in your robe, bare feet padding across oriental rugs so thick they swallow sound. The breakfast room, not the dining room that is reserved for dinner, is flooded with morning sun. Your mother sits at one end of the table reading a letter. Your father sits at the other, hidden behind the Wall Street Journal. Between them, silver serving dishes gleam on a sideboard. Scrambled eggs, bacon, toast points, fresh fruit arranged in a crystal bowl. You help yourself quietly, the only sound the soft clink of serving spoons against porcelain. The breakfast room is smaller than the dining room, more intimate, though intimate is a relative term in a house this size. The walls are papered in a pale yellow print, tiny flowers repeated endlessly. The table is oak, polished to a high shine, with 6 chairs, though only 3 are ever used. The windows look out over the back lawn, where the morning sun catches the dew on the grass and makes it sparkle like scattered diamonds. Your mother does not look up as you enter. She's absorbed in her letter, her coffee cooling beside her, a faint line of concentration between her brows. She's already dressed, even though it is barely 8 o'clock, in a skirt and blouse and a single strand of pearls. Her hair is perfect, her lipstick freshly applied. You have never seen her without lipstick, not even first thing in the morning. You wonder sometimes if she sleeps in it. Your father rustles his newspaper, the only acknowledgement of your presence. He is dressed for work, dark suit, white shirt, tie knotted with mathematical precision. His coffee is black, his toast dry, his routine unchanging. He will leave for the train station in 20 minutes, driven by James, and he will not return until evening. You know his schedule better than you know his thoughts. He's a stranger who lives in your house. You fill your plate with scrambled eggs, 2 strips of bacon, and a slice of toast. The eggs are fluffy, perfectly seasoned, still warm from the pan. Bridget knows how you like them. You sit down in your usual spot midway between your parents and begin to eat. The silence is not uncomfortable exactly. It is simply the way things are. Breakfast is not for conversation. It is for fuel, for preparation, for the small rituals that mark the beginning of another day. Your mother finishes her letter and sets it aside. She glances at you, taking in your appearance with a quick assessing look. You need to be ready by 8:30, she says. Mrs. Patterson is driving today. You nod. Mrs. Patterson is the mother of a girl in your class, a woman with a sharp laugh and a sharper sense of who belongs and who does not. Her car always smells like perfume and cigarettes. You do not like riding with her, but you do not say so. Your father folds his newspaper and checks his watch, a gold piece that belonged to his father. He stands, drains the last of his coffee, and picks up his briefcase. Without a word, he leaves the room. A moment later, you hear the front door close. The house seems to exhale in his absence. Your mother pours herself more coffee and finally looks at you directly. Try to make a good impression today, she says. It matters. You nod again, though you're not sure what kind of impression she means or why it matters. But you have learned not to ask. In this house, questions are discouraged. Obedience is expected. After breakfast, you return upstairs to dress. Your closet is organised by season, by occasion, by colour. There are dresses for morning, dresses for afternoon, dresses for evening. There are gloves in a dedicated drawer, sorted by length. There are hats on stands, shoes in boxes labelled with Polaroids of what is inside. Your mother has always insisted on proper dress, even at home. Slacks are acceptable only for gardening or tennis. Bare shoulders are for the beach, nowhere else. You choose carefully, knowing you will be seen today, if not by guests, then by the staff, and appearances, you have been told since childhood, matter. You stand in front of the mirror, still in your slip, and consider your options. The day is warm, but not too warm, and you have a piano lesson this afternoon, which means you need something appropriate for sitting at the bench without wrinkling. You pull out a cotton dress in pale blue, fitted at the waist, with a full skirt and short sleeves. It is modest, pretty, and utterly unremarkable, which is exactly what your mother would approve of. The dress slips over your head easily, the fabric cool against your skin. You smooth it down, adjust the collar, and reach for the matching belt. It cinches at your waist, tight enough to give you shape but not so tight that you cannot breathe. You've learned to navigate this balance, the line between looking put together and feeling comfortable. Comfort, your mother has said more than once, is less important than presentation. You sit at your vanity to do your hair. It is dark, thick, and just long enough to pull back into a neat ponytail. You brush it carefully, counting the strokes the way your mother taught you, then secure it with a ribbon that matches your dress. Your reflection stares back at you, serious and composed. You look older than you feel. You look like someone who belongs in this house, in this life. You're not sure that is a good thing. Next come the shoes. You pull out a pair of white flats, leather, with a small bow at the toe. They are polished to a shine, stored in tissue paper to keep them from scuffing. You slip them on, buckling the small strap across your instep and stand. The shoes are new, still a little stiff, and you know they will pinch by the end of the day. But they look perfect, and that is what matters. You glance at the clock. 8:20. Mrs. Patterson will be here in 10 minutes. You take one last look in the mirror, smoothing your dress, adjusting your ribbon, checking for anything out of place. You look like a girl from a magazine, polished and pretty, and completely appropriate. You look nothing like yourself. Downstairs, your mother is waiting in the foyer, her handbag on her arm, her gloves already on. She looks you over, nods once, and hands you your school bag. You take it without a word. The doorbell rings, sharp and sudden, and your mother opens it to reveal Mrs. Patterson smiling brightly, her perfume reaching you before she does. "Ready?" she asks, and you nod, stepping out into the morning, into a world that expects you to be perfect every single day. The house runs on a system you have always known but never questioned. There is Mrs. Henley, the housekeeper, who manages everything with quiet authority. There is Bridget, the cook, who has been with the family since before you were born. There is James, the chauffeur, who also tends the cars and sometimes helps with heavy lifting. There is Caroline, the day maid, who dusts, vacuums, and changes linens. And there is old Mr. Wilkins, the gardener, who speaks only to your father and occasionally to the roses. You know their names. You say good morning when you pass them, but you do not know where they live, what they do on their days off, or whether they have families of their own. The hierarchy is invisible but absolute. Mrs. Henley stands at the top, answering only to your mother. She oversees the other staff, assigns tasks, manages schedules, and ensures that the house runs with the smooth efficiency of a well-oiled machine. She is firm but fair, and the others respect her, though you sense they do not particularly like her. She's too formal, too distant, too much a part of the family's world and not enough a part of theirs. Bridget occupies a strange middle ground. She is staff, but she's also beloved. She's been here long enough to have earned a kind of informal status, a privilege that allows her to speak more freely, to hum while she works, to occasionally offer an opinion that Mrs. Henley would never dare. Your mother trusts her completely, and that trust has granted her a kind of immunity. She is the only one who can get away with calling you sweetheart or commenting on how tall you have gotten. Caroline is younger, newer, still learning the unspoken rules of the house. She is quiet, almost invisible, moving through rooms with a kind of nervous efficiency. She dusts the same surfaces every day, changes sheets that barely look slept in, polishes silver that never tarnishes. You feel sorry for her sometimes, though you're not sure why. She seems tired, always, her shoulders slightly hunched, her eyes downcast. She never speaks unless spoken to, and even then her answers are brief, deferential. "Yes, ma'am." "Right away, ma'am." "Of course, ma'am." James is the only man on the household staff, and he carries himself with a quiet dignity that sets him apart. He is tall, thin, greying at the temples, and always impeccably dressed in his chauffeur's uniform. He drives your father to the station every morning, your mother to her, luncheons and charity meetings, you to school when Mrs. Patterson is unavailable. He opens doors, carries bags, and maintains the cars with a meticulousness that borders on reverence. He speaks rarely, but when he does, his voice is low and calm. You have never seen him hurried, never seen him flustered. He is a constant, steady presence in a house that often feels unmoored. And then there is Mr. Wilkins, who exists outside the hierarchy entirely. He's not part of the household staff. He does not answer to Mrs. Henley. He works outdoors in all weather, coaxing beauty from the soil with the patience of someone who understands that growth cannot be rushed. Your father speaks to him about the gardens, about the lawn, about the problem of weeds or the placement of new plantings. But beyond that, Mr. Wilkins is a mystery. He arrives early, leaves late, and in between, he transforms the grounds into something that looks like it belongs in a painting. You have been taught to be polite to the staff, to say please and thank you, to acknowledge their presence. But you have also been taught subtly that there is a line. You do not ask them personal questions. You do not linger in the kitchen to chat with Bridget. You do not follow Mr. Wilkins around the garden asking about the flowers. They are here to serve and you are here to be served, and the distance between those two roles is carefully maintained, invisible but absolute. It is a system that works, your mother would say, and so you accept it, because you do not know any other way. You pass through the formal living room on your way to the library. It is a beautiful room, maybe the most beautiful in the house, with tall windows, a marble fireplace, and furniture upholstered in pale silk. Fresh flowers sit on the mantel, replaced twice a week whether anyone notices or not. But no one ever sits here. The cushions are perfectly fluffed. The coffee table books are arranged at precise angles. It exists not to be lived in, but to be seen, a stage set for the occasional cocktail party or holiday gathering. The rest of the time it simply waits, elegant and untouched. The room is done entirely in creams and golds, colours your mother chose because they photograph well. The drapes are heavy silk, puddling slightly on the floor in a way that suggests abundance. The rug is Persian, intricate and expensive, with a pattern so detailed you could stare at it for hours and still find new shapes hidden in the weave. The furniture sits at perfect right angles, 2 sofas facing each other across a low table, 2 armchairs flanking the fireplace, a small writing desk under the window that has never held a piece of paper. You pause in the doorway as you always do, taking in the stillness. The air here smells different than the rest of the house, less lived in, more like a museum. There's no trace of daily life, no book left open on the arm of a chair, no teacup forgotten on the side table, no impression in the cushions to suggest anyone has ever actually sat down. It is pristine, untouchable, a room that exists in a state of permanent readiness for guests who rarely come. The flowers on the mantel are fresh, as always. This week they are white lilies, their scent heavy and slightly sweet. Caroline changes them every Monday and Thursday, carrying away the old arrangement and replacing it with something new. You wonder sometimes what happens to the old flowers. Are they thrown away? Given to the staff? Composted in Mr. Wilkins's garden? You do not know. You have never asked. The fireplace is marble, veined with grey, and flanked by brass andirons that gleam, even though they have never held logs. Your father insists on central heating, finds the idea of a wood fire charmingly rustic but ultimately impractical. The mantel holds a collection of objects that never move, a crystal clock that chimes on the hour, a pair of silver candlesticks, a small porcelain box your mother bought in Paris. They are not sentimental objects. They're decorative, chosen for their ability to suggest taste, refinement, a life well lived. You step into the room, your footsteps muffled by the thick rug. You sit just for a moment on the edge of one of the sofas. The silk is cool and slightly slippery under your hands. The cushion beneath you is firm, unyielding, as if resisting the very idea of being sat upon. You wonder what it would be like to curl up here with a book, to tuck your feet under you and lose yourself in a story. But you know you would be scolded. This room is not for comfort, it is for show. You stand, smoothing the cushion where you sat, erasing any evidence of your presence. As you leave, you glance back one more time. The room looks exactly as it did when you entered. Perfect and empty. A space that exists only to be admired from a distance. And you realise, with a small, sad clarity, that this room is a kind of metaphor for your entire life. The library is where you spend most of your mornings. It is a wood-panelled room lined floor to ceiling with books, some inherited, some bought by the yard to fill space. The air smells faintly of old paper, lemon polish, and your father's pipe tobacco. There is a leather chair by the window where the light is best. You curl into it with a book, your legs tucked beneath you, and the house falls away. Outside, the gardener moves slowly across the lawn. A bird calls. Somewhere distant, a phone rings. But it is not for you. The books here are organised with the kind of precision your mother applies to everything. Fiction on the left, sorted alphabetically by author. History and biography on the right, arranged by subject and then by date. Reference books, encyclopedias, atlases, dictionaries, occupy the shelves behind your father's desk. Many of the books are leather-bound, their spines stamped with gold lettering that catches the light. Some of them, you suspect, have never been read. They were purchased to suggest culture, education, a certain kind of intellectual seriousness. But you do not care. You read them anyway. The leather chair is your favourite spot in the entire house. It is old, worn soft in places, with a small tear in the armrest that no one has bothered to repair. It sits angled toward the window, where morning light spills in and makes the dust motes dance. You have spent countless hours here, reading everything from Jane Austen to Agatha Christie, to your father's collection of National Geographic magazines, which are stacked in the cabinet beneath the window. This chair is where you disappear, where the expectations and the silence and the weight of the house cannot reach you. You open your book, a copy of Wuthering Heights you borrowed from the school library, and let yourself sink into the story. Outside, Mr. Wilkins is trimming the hedge that runs along the front of the property. You can see him through the window, his movements slow and deliberate, the shears flashing in the sun. A robin lands on the lawn, hops twice and flies away. The world outside is quiet, orderly, predictable. Inside, the library wraps around you like a cocoon. The ticking of the mantel clock is steady, rhythmic, almost hypnotic. The smell of old books is comforting, familiar, a scent you associate with solitude and safety. You turn the pages slowly, savouring each sentence, in no hurry to finish. Time here moves differently, stretches out, becomes elastic. You could spend the entire morning in this chair and no one would disturb you. No one would even notice. The phone rings somewhere in the house, muffled and distant. You hear Caroline's voice, faint, answering it. A moment later, silence returns. The house absorbs sound the way the rugs absorb footsteps, swallowing everything, leaving only stillness. You pull your legs up tighter, resting your cheek against the back of the chair, and keep reading. This is your refuge, your sanctuary, the one place in the house that feels like it belongs to you. Not because you own it, you do not own anything here, but because you have claimed it through sheer persistence, through hours and hours of quiet presence. The library knows you. It holds your secrets, your daydreams, your escapes. And in return, you love it fiercely, protectively, the way you might love a friend who has never let you down. Around 10:30, your mother rings a small silver bell, and Caroline appears with a coffee service. Your mother takes hers black, in a thin porcelain cup painted with violets. You take yours with cream and too much sugar, a habit your mother tolerates but does not approve of. She asks about your plans for the day, though she already knows them. She mentions that the Harrisons are hosting a luncheon next week and that you will be expected to attend. You nod, sip your coffee, and watch the steam curl upward into the light. The ritual of mid-morning coffee is one of the few times your mother seeks out your company deliberately. She appears in the library doorway, perfectly composed, and says simply, "Coffee," as if it is a command rather than an invitation. You set down your book, uncurl from your chair, and follow her to the morning room, a small bright space off the main hallway that catches the late morning sun. The coffee service is already laid out when you arrive, arranged on a low table between two upholstered chairs. The tray is silver, polished to a mirror shine. The coffee pot steams gently. There are 2 cups, 2 saucers, 2 small spoons, and a sugar bowl with tongs shaped like tiny claws. Your mother pours her own coffee, a gesture of informality that happens only when the two of you are alone. In front of guests, Caroline would do the pouring. But here, now, your mother's hands move with practiced ease, lifting the pot, tilting it just so, filling her cup without spilling a drop. You pour your own coffee, add cream from a small pitcher until the liquid turns pale. Then add sugar, 1 lump, 2, 3. Your mother watches but says nothing, though you can feel her disapproval like a faint pressure in the air. Too much sugar is unladylike, she has said before. It suggests a lack of self-control, but this is a battle she has decided not to fight, and you are grateful for the small rebellion it represents. She settles into her chair, crossing her legs at the ankle, and takes a delicate sip. The sunlight catches the edge of her cup, making the violets glow. "So," she begins, as she always does, "tell me about your plans for today." You know she already knows your plans. She has reviewed them with Mrs. Henley this morning, checked the household calendar, confirmed your piano lesson with Mrs. Albright. But she asks anyway because this is what mothers do, or at least what she believes mothers should do. You have school until 3, you say, then piano at 4. She nods as if filing this information away. And tomorrow, choir practice after school. Another nod. She's always several days ahead, planning, coordinating, ensuring that your life unfolds with the smooth inevitability of a train on a fixed track. She takes another sip, then sets her cup down with a soft clink. The Harrisons are having a luncheon next Thursday, she says. You will need to attend. You nod. The Harrisons are old family friends, though you're not sure your mother actually likes Mrs. Harrison. The 2 women smile at each other with their mouths but not their eyes, and their conversations are full of compliments that sound faintly like insults. Still, appearances must be maintained. Invitations must be accepted. The social machinery must keep turning. Your mother talks for a while longer, about the luncheon, about what you should wear, about the importance of making a good impression. You nod at the appropriate moments, murmur agreement, and sip your too sweet coffee. The steam rises between you, soft and curling, and for a moment the light catches it and turns it gold. Your mother pauses, mid-sentence, distracted by something outside the window, and you take the opportunity to study her face. She looks tired, you realise. Beautifully dressed, perfectly composed, but tired. There are faint lines at the corners of her eyes, shadows beneath them that her makeup does not quite hide. You wonder what she thinks about, alone in her room at night. You wonder if she is happy. You wonder if she ever asks herself that question. By 11, your mother is on the phone with Mrs. Harrison confirming the luncheon. These gatherings are not casual. They require planning. What to wear, what to bring, what topics are safe and which are not. Politics, for instance, are mentioned only in vague, agreeable terms. Money is never discussed, even though everyone at the table has it. Religion is acceptable if kept light. The goal is not conversation but performance, a carefully choreographed display of manners, taste, and social grace. Your mother's voice is bright and warm on the phone, a tone she reserves for social occasions. "Oh, Margaret, how lovely to hear from you," she says, even though Mrs. Harrison called her. She listens, murmurs agreement, laughs at something that is not funny. Yes, of course. 1 o'clock is perfect. Should I bring anything? A pause. Oh, how thoughtful. I will bring a dessert. Bridget makes a lovely tart. You watch from the doorway as your mother navigates the conversation with the skill of a diplomat. She confirms the time, the dress code, subtle but understood, and the guest list. She asks after Mr. Harrison's health, Mrs. Harrison's daughter who is away at college, the new curtains Mrs. Harrison mentioned at the last gathering. Every question is carefully chosen, every response measured. This is the work of maintaining friendships that are not really friendships, but alliances, connections that serve a social purpose rather than an emotional one. When she hangs up, your mother makes a note in her small leather-bound calendar, then rings the bell. For Mrs. Henley. The housekeeper appears almost instantly, as if she's been waiting just outside the door. "Mrs. Henley," your mother says, "we will need a dessert for Thursday's luncheon. Something elegant. Perhaps the lemon tart?" Mrs. Henley nods, makes her own note, and disappears as silently as she came. Your mother turns her attention to you. "You will need to come with me," she says. It is not a question. These luncheons are not just for the women. They are for the daughters too, a kind of training ground for the social roles you will be expected to fill as an adult. You will sit quietly, eat sparingly, and observe how the women interact, how they compliment each other's clothes, how they discuss their children's accomplishments without seeming to brag, how they navigate disagreements without ever raising their voices. The rest of the morning is spent preparing. Your mother reviews your wardrobe, selecting a dress that is appropriate but not showy, elegant but not overdressed. She reminds you of the rules. Sit up straight, do not fidget, speak only when spoken to, and for heaven's sake do not eat too much. These women notice everything, she says. They will judge you, and by extension, they will judge me. You nod, feeling the familiar weight of expectation settle over you. These luncheons are exhausting, not because of the food or the conversation, but because of the constant vigilance required. You must monitor every word, every gesture, every expression. You must be charming but not too charming, polite but not too eager, present but not too noticeable. It is a performance, and like all performances, it requires rehearsal, precision, and a willingness to disappear into the role. On Saturday, the family goes to the country club. Your father plays golf with men whose names all sound the same. Charles, Richard, William. Your mother has tennis, then lunch on the terrace with the other wives. You're expected to attend, to be seen, to socialise with the children, of families just like yours. The club smells like fresh-cut grass, chlorine and gin. It is beautiful, exclusive, and so quiet you can hear the ice clinking in glasses 3 tables away. Everyone smiles, everyone is polite, and everyone you suspect is just a little bit bored. The drive to the club takes 20 minutes. James at the wheel, your father in the front seat reading the paper, your mother beside you in the back, applying lipstick in a compact mirror. You're dressed in your tennis whites, even though you're not playing tennis. Your mother insists on the uniform. It suggests athleticism, she says, even if you spend the entire afternoon sitting by the pool. The club sits on a hill overlooking the valley, a sprawling white building with columns and verandas and a circular driveway where James drops you off. A valet takes the keys. A doorman holds the door. Inside, the lobby's cool and dim, all dark wood and leather furniture and oil paintings of men in golf attire. The air conditioning hums softly, a luxury you do not have at home. Your father heads immediately toward the men's locker room, his golf bag already waiting for him. Your mother touches your arm lightly. "I will meet you at the pool after tennis," she says, and then she's gone, gliding toward the courts in her pleated skirt and pristine white sneakers. You wander through the club, past the dining room where tables are being set for lunch, past the bar where men in pastel shirts are already drinking even though it is not yet noon, and out onto the terrace. The pool glitters in the sun, impossibly blue, surrounded by lounge chairs and umbrellas. A few children are already in the water, shrieking and splashing, while their mothers watch from the shade, sipping iced tea and talking in low voices. You find an empty chair and settle in, spreading your towel carefully, arranging your book and your sunglasses within reach. The sun is warm on your skin, but not too warm. A breeze stirs the umbrella. Above you, somewhere in the distance, you hear the soft thwack of a tennis ball, the low murmur of conversation, the faint clink of silverware from the dining room. The club is always like this, hushed and orderly, a place where even the children seem to understand the rules. A girl you know from school appears, dripping wet, her hair plastered to her head. She waves. "Are you coming in?" You shake your head. Maybe later. She shrugs and cannonballs back into the pool, sending up a spray that catches the light and scatters into 1,000 tiny rainbows. You watch her, envious of her ease, her lack of self-consciousness. You cannot remember the last time you jumped into a pool without worrying about your hair or your makeup or whether someone was watching. By noon, your mother joins you, freshly showered and changed, her hair still damp. She orders lunch for both of you, a Cobb salad and iced tea, and the two of you sit in the shade, eating slowly, watching the other families around you. Your mother knows everyone, greets them by name, exchanges pleasantries, comments on the weather. You smile and nod and say very little. This is her world, not yours. You are just visiting. Sunday morning means church, not because your family is particularly devout, but because attendance is expected. You sit in the same pew you have sat in since childhood, third row from the front, right side. Your mother wears gloves and a hat. Your father wears a dark suit and checks his watch twice during the sermon. Afterward there is coffee in the parish hall, polite conversation with the rector, and handshakes with families whose names you have known your entire life. It is ritual, tradition, a weekly reminder of where you belong. The morning begins with the same careful preparation as every other public appearance. You dress in your Sunday best, a navy dress with a white collar, modest and appropriate. Your mother inspects you before you leave the house, adjusting your hat, smoothing a wrinkle from your skirt, reminding you to sit still during the service. Church is not about worship, not really. It is about being seen, about maintaining the family's place in the community, about demonstrating respectability and continuity. The drive is silent. Your father at the wheel for once, James having Sundays off. The church is only 10 minutes away, a stone building with stained glass windows and a bell tower that chimes on the hour. The parking lot is already half full when you arrive, filled with cars just like yours, dark and polished and expensive. Your father parks in the same spot every week, third row near the oak tree. Some things never change. Inside, the church smells like old wood and candle wax and the faint perfume of the women who arrived early. The light filters through the stained glass, casting coloured shadows across the pews. Your family processes down the aisle with quiet dignity, nodding to acquaintances, and slides into your usual pew, third row right, side. You have sat here every Sunday for as long as you can remember. The wood is worn smooth in places, polished by decades of congregants shifting and settling. The service begins with a hymn. Your mother's voice is clear and true, your father's a low murmur. You mouth the words, not quite singing, watching the dust motes dance in the coloured light. The rector takes his place at the pulpit, an older man with white hair and a gentle droning voice. He speaks about grace, about forgiveness, about the importance of community. You try to listen, you really do, but your mind wanders. You think about the book you left on your nightstand, about the piano piece you're supposed to practice, about whether there will be roast beef for dinner. Your father checks his watch, once during the reading, once during the sermon. Your mother's face remains serene, attentive, her gloved hands folded in her lap. She's a master at appearing engaged, at projecting piety without necessarily feeling it. You wonder if she believes any of this, or if it is just another performance, another role she's learned to play. When the service ends, the congregation files out slowly, shaking the rector's hand, commenting on the sermon, the flowers, the beautiful weather. Your mother is gracious, your father cordial. They know everyone here, have known them for years. The Hendersons, the Bradfords, the Kavanaghs, the same families, the same conversations week after week after week. In the parish hall, coffee is served in paper cups, weak and lukewarm. There are cookies on a folding table, store-bought, arranged on a paper doily. Your mother takes one, nibbles it politely, and sets it aside. She's too well bred to eat in public with any real appetite. You stand beside her, smiling when smiled at, answering questions about school, about piano, about your plans for the summer. The questions are always the same. Your answers have become automatic. After half an hour, your father signals that it is time to leave. The family says its goodbyes, promises to see everyone next week, and makes its way back to the car. The drive home is as silent as the drive there. You have fulfilled your obligation. You have been seen. The week can now begin. Sunday dinner is formal, even at home. The dining room table is set with the good china, the silver that requires polishing, the crystal glasses that catch the light. Bridget has made roast beef, Yorkshire pudding, glazed carrots, and her famous apple pie. Your father carves the roast at the head of the table. Your mother serves vegetables from a silver dish. You eat slowly, carefully, remembering every rule. Elbows off the table, napkin in your lap. Chew with your mouth closed, speak only when spoken to. The meal is delicious, but it is also exhausting. The dining room is grand, designed for occasions just like this. The table can seat 12 when fully extended, but today it is set for only 3. Your father sits at the head, your mother at the foot, and you in the middle, equidistant from both. The distance feels symbolic. 3 people in a room large enough for a dozen, separated by mahogany and formality and the weight of tradition. The china is Limoges, delicate and hand-painted, edged in gold. It was your grandmother's, and before that, your great-grandmother's. Each plate, each saucer, each gravy boat carries the weight of history. You're terrified of breaking something, of being the one who ends the chain. You lift your fork carefully, cut your meat into small, precise pieces, and chew slowly, deliberately, aware of every movement. The roast beef is perfectly cooked, pink in the centre, crusty on the edges. Your father carves it with a long knife, his movements practised and efficient. He places a slice on each plate, then passes them down the table. Your mother adds vegetables, spooning glazed carrots and roasted potatoes with a silver serving spoon that gleams in the candlelight. Everything is choreographed, rehearsed, a ritual performed every Sunday without variation. Conversation is minimal. Your father asks about your week and you summarize it in 3 sentences. School is fine. Piano's going well. You have a book report due on Friday. He nods, already turning his attention to your mother. She updates him on the household, on upcoming social obligations, on the leak in the upstairs bathroom that Mr. Wilkins has promised to look at. He listens, or appears to, cutting his meat with methodical precision. The silence between exchanges is heavy but not uncomfortable. It is simply the way your family operates. Talk is functional, transactional, a means of conveying information rather than emotion. You've never had a conversation at this table that went deeper than schedules and obligations. You've never been asked how you feel, what you dream about, what scares you. Those questions do not have a place here. Bridget appears periodically, refilling water glasses, clearing plates, bringing the next course. She moves silently, efficiently, a ghost in a starched apron. When she sets the apple pie in front of your father, still warm from the oven, the smell fills the room, sweet and cinnamon-laced. Your father cuts neat slices, and your mother adds a dollop of whipped cream to each. You eat yours slowly, savouring each bite, knowing this is the only part of the meal where pleasure is allowed. When dinner ends, your father retires to his study with a brandy and the evening paper. Your mother goes to the living room to write thank you notes. You are dismissed, released back to your room, where you kick off your shoes and collapse onto your bed, exhausted not from eating but from the effort of maintaining perfect posture, perfect manners, perfect silence for 2 solid hours. After dinner, you walk the grounds. The property is large, several acres, with manicured lawns, rose gardens, a tennis court, and a small pond where ducks gather in the evening. Mr. Wilkins has been working here for 30 years, and it shows. Every hedge is trimmed, every flower bed weeded, every stone path swept clean. It is beautiful, almost unnaturally so, as if nature itself has been trained to behave. You walk slowly, breathing in the smell of grass and roses, and for a moment you forget that all of this requires constant work to maintain. The evening air is cool, softer than the afternoon heat, and the light has turned golden, that perfect hour photographers love. You follow the stone path that winds through the rose garden, your footsteps barely audible on the smooth flagstones. The roses are in full bloom, heavy-headed and fragrant, pink and white and deep crimson. Mr. Wilkins has trained them to climb trellises and arbours, creating tunnels of colour and scent. You pause to touch a petal soft as silk, and it releases a burst of perfume that makes you close your eyes. Beyond the roses, the lawn stretches out, vast and green, striped in neat lines from Mr. Wilkins's mower. The grass is thick, lush, perfect. You slip off your shoes and walk barefoot across it, feeling the cool blades beneath your feet. It is one of the few moments of the day when you allow yourself to be less than perfectly composed. The grass is damp with early evening dew, and it soothes your feet, still sore from your Sunday shoes. At the far edge of the property sits the tennis court, its white lines freshly painted, the net pulled taut. You have played here a handful of times, always under your mother's watchful eye, always with the reminder that tennis is a social skill, not a sport. Grace matters more than power. Form matters more than winning. You do not particularly enjoy tennis, but you are competent at it, which is all that is required. Past the tennis court is the pond, small and round, surrounded by willow trees whose branches trail in the water. Ducks glide across the surface, leaving V-shaped ripples behind them. You sit on the wooden bench your father installed years ago and watch them. They seem content, unburdened, moving through the water with an ease you envy. You wonder what it would be like to live without expectations, without the constant pressure to perform, to present, to be perfect. The gardens are Mr. Wilkins's masterpiece, but they are also a kind of cage. Everything here is controlled, managed, shaped into something acceptable. The wildflowers that try to sprout near the pond are pulled up. The ivy that creeps along the fence is trimmed back. Even the trees are pruned, their branches directed, their growth monitored. There is beauty here, undeniable beauty, but there is no wildness, no chaos, no room for anything that does not fit the plan. You stay on the bench until the light begins to fade, until the ducks settle into the reeds for the night, until the first stars appear overhead. The air smells like earth and water, and the faint sweetness of jasmine from the vine near the house. For a moment you allow yourself to simply be, to exist without the weight of your name, your family, your obligations. It is a small rebellion, this quiet sitting, but it is yours. When you finally stand and make your way back toward the house, the windows are glowing softly, golden squares against the darkening sky. Inside, your mother is likely reading in the living room, your father in his study with another brandy. The house looks peaceful from here, beautiful even, like something from a magazine. But you know better. You know what it costs to keep everything this perfect, and as you climb the steps to the back door, you feel the weight of it settling over you once again. Your parents live in a different part of the house, metaphorically if not literally. They have their routines, their social obligations, their private conversations behind closed doors. You see them at meals, at church, at family gatherings, but you do not really know them. Your mother is elegant, composed, always perfectly dressed. Your father is distant, formal, more comfortable with his newspaper than with his children. There is love, you think, but it is expressed through provision, not affection. Hugs are rare. Praise is rarer. You learn early that approval must be earned, not expected. Your parents' bedroom is on the second floor at the opposite end of the hallway from yours. You've been inside only a handful of times, always briefly, always for a specific reason. It is a large room, dominated by a four-poster bed with a carved headboard and matching nightstands. Your mother's vanity sits by the window, covered with silver-backed brushes, perfume bottles, and small porcelain dishes holding earrings and bracelets. Your father's dresser is more austere, topped only with a wooden valet where he drapes his tie at night. The room smells like your mother's perfume and your father's aftershave, a combination that is distinctly theirs. But it does not feel warm. It feels formal, staged, like a hotel room where two people happen to be staying. There are no personal photographs, no clutter, no sign of intimacy or affection. Even their bed looks more decorative than functional, piled with pillows that must be removed each night and replaced each morning. Your mother's days are full but opaque. She manages the household, attends luncheons, sits on charity boards, plays tennis at the club. She's always busy, always occupied, but you're not sure what she actually does with her time. When you ask, her answers are vague. I have a meeting. I'm organising the full fundraiser. I have errands to run. You're not invited into these parts of her life. They belong to her adult world, a world you're not yet part of. Your father is even more distant. He leaves for work before you wake and returns after dinner. He spends his evenings in his study, door closed, reviewing papers or reading, or simply sitting in silence with his brandy. On weekends, he plays golf or works in the yard with Mr. Wilkins discussing drainage problems and fertilizer ratios. He's polite to you always, but he does not seem to know what to do with you. You're a daughter, not a son, and that seems to baffle him slightly, as if he is not sure what role he's supposed to play. Affection in your family is indirect. Your mother shows love by ensuring you are well-dressed, well-fed, well-educated. Your father shows love by providing, by maintaining the house, and the cars and the bank accounts that keep everything running. But neither of them hugs you spontaneously, asks about your feelings, or tells you they are proud of you unless you have accomplished something measurable, an award, a perfect report card, a compliment from someone important. You have learned to read their approval in other ways, a slight nod from your father when you play a piano piece without mistakes, a softening in your mother's expression when you remember to thank the hostess at a party. These small gestures are as close as you get to praise, and you have learned to treasure them. to hold them carefully like fragile things that might break if handled too roughly. Sometimes, late at night, you hear your parents talking in their room. The words are indistinct, muffled by walls and distance, but the rhythm of conversation is soothing. It reminds you that they have a relationship separate from you, a life you're not part of. You wonder what they talk about, if they laugh together, if they are happy. You wonder if they ever wanted children, or if you were simply an expectation, another box to check, another way of maintaining appearances. There is love in this house. You believe that. But it is a careful, controlled love, expressed through duty and provision rather than warmth and spontaneity. Your parents are good people, responsible people, people who take their obligations seriously, but they are also products of their own upbringing, their own era, their own expectations, and in this world distance is not cruelty, it is simply the way things are done. The playroom is on the 3rd floor, a large bright space filled with toys you have outgrown. There is a rocking horse, a dollhouse with real electric lights, shelves of books, a toy chest overflowing with things you no longer touch. You used to spend hours here, but now it feels like a museum of your childhood, preserved but lifeless. You wander in occasionally, touching things out of nostalgia, but you do not stay long. The room reminds you of a time when life was simpler, before you understood what all this wealth meant or what it cost. The playroom has not changed in years. The wallpaper is the same pale yellow with tiny rosebuds, slightly faded now from the sunlight that streams through the windows. The rocking horse stands in the corner, its painted mane still glossy, its leather saddle cracked with age. You used to ride it for hours, galloping to imaginary places, escaping into worlds where you were a cowgirl or a princess or an explorer. Now it just stands there frozen mid-stride, waiting for a rider who will never come. The dollhouse is your mother's doing, an elaborate Victorian structure with 3 floors, working lights, and furniture in every room. She spent weeks furnishing it when you were small, ordering tiny chairs and rugs and dishes from a catalogue. You played with it dutifully, arranging and rearranging the miniature family, but you never loved it the way she wanted you to. It felt too precious, too perfect, more like something to be admired than played with. Now it sits under a dust sheet, its windows dark, its rooms empty. The bookshelves are still full, rows of children's books with cracked spines and faded covers. Peter Rabbit, Winnie the Pooh, The Secret Garden. You pull one out at random, flip through the pages and find your name written in careful child's handwriting on the inside cover. The memory hits you suddenly, unexpectedly. Sitting cross-legged on the rug, sounding out words, your mother beside you, her hand on your shoulder, praising you when you got it right. It is one of the few memories you have of her being fully present, not distracted, not performing, just there. The toy chest is overflowing, a jumble of forgotten things, blocks, puzzles, a jump rope, a set of jacks, a porcelain-faced doll with eyes that open and close. You dig through it slowly, each object sparking a memory. The blocks remind you of building towers and knocking them down, over and over, delighting in the crash. The doll reminds you of tea parties on the floor, elaborate affairs with real cookies and imaginary guests. You were happy then, you think. Or at least, you were too young to know you should not be. But at some point, the playroom stopped being fun and started being lonely. Your friends were scattered across the city, too far away for spontaneous visits. The neighbourhood children, what few there were, attended different schools, moved in different circles. You played alone more often than not, inventing companions, creating elaborate stories to fill the silence, and eventually you stopped coming here altogether. You outgrew it, or it outgrew you. You're not sure which. Now, standing in the middle of the room, You feel like a ghost visiting a place you used to haunt. Everything here is familiar but distant, like looking at photographs of someone else's childhood. The room is clean, dusted regularly by Caroline, but it has the stillness of a space no longer lived in. The air smells faintly of old wood and mothballs and something else, something you cannot quite name. Loss, maybe, or time. You close the toy chest, cover the dollhouse again, and make your way to the door. As you leave, you glance back one more time. The rocking horse catches the light, its painted eye gleaming. For a moment, you almost see yourself as you were, small, hopeful, convinced the world was full of magic. But the moment passes, you're older now, you know better, and the playroom, for all its brightness, feels like a beautiful, lonely lie. When guests come for dinner, the house transforms. The formal dining room is opened, the table extended, extra leaves added to seat 12. The good silver is polished until it glows. Bridget prepares a menu that takes 2 days. Oysters, consommé, roasted duck, asparagus in hollandaise, a salad course, cheese, dessert, coffee. Your parents entertain with practiced ease, moving through courses, conversations and cocktails as if choreographed. You're allowed to join, but only to listen, to observe, to learn how this is done. Speaking is discouraged. Children, even teenage ones, are meant to be decorative, not disruptive. Preparation for a dinner party begins days in advance. Your mother meets with Mrs. Henley and Bridget to plan the menu, review the guest list and assign tasks. The silver must be polished piece by piece until you can see your reflection in every spoon. The crystal must be washed by hand carefully and inspected for spots. The linens must be pressed, the good china brought down from the cabinet, each plate checked for chips or cracks. On the day of the party, the house hums with activity. Carolyn moves through the rooms with her dustcloth and vacuum, ensuring every surface gleams. Mr. Wilkins cuts fresh flowers from the garden, and your mother arranges them herself, creating centerpieces for the dining table and smaller arrangements for the living room and entryway. Bridget takes over the kitchen entirely, her domain, her stage, and the smells that drift through the house are intoxicating. Roasting meat, baking bread, something rich and buttery simmering on the stove. You're expected to dress appropriately, which means your nicest dress, stockings even though it is summer, and the pearl earrings your grandmother gave you. Your mother inspects you before the guests arrive, adjusting your collar, smoothing your hair, reminding you of the rules. Speak only when spoken to. Keep your napkin in your lap. Eat slowly and sparingly. Do not monopolize anyone's attention. You're here to be seen, not heard, a living example of your parents' successful child-rearing. The guests arrive promptly at 7, announced by the doorbell and then by James, who's been pressed into service as a sort of informal butler for the evening. He takes coats, offers drinks, and ushers everyone into the living room, where your father presides over the bar cart. The men gather near the fireplace, drinks in hand, talking about business and politics in low, serious voices. The women cluster by the windows, admiring your mother's flower arrangements, complimenting her dress, exchanging pleasantries that reveal nothing. You hover at the edge of the room, a smile fixed on your face, nodding when adults acknowledge you. How lovely you look. How you have grown. You must be so proud of her. Your mother accepts these compliments graciously, deflecting them with practiced modesty. She does well in school. She is studying piano. She is a good girl. You're discussed as if you are not there, and in a way, you are not. You are a prop, part of the scenery, evidence of your family's success. When dinner is announced, everyone processes into the dining room with the formality of a religious ceremony. The table is breathtaking, set with such precision it looks like a photograph. Candles flicker in silver holders. Crystal catches the light and scatters it in tiny rainbows. The first course is already at each place, oysters on the half shell arranged on beds of ice. You have never liked oysters, but you eat yours dutifully, swallowing quickly, trying not to taste it. The meal unfolds in courses, each one timed perfectly, each one accompanied by the appropriate silverware. You watch the adults, following their lead, using the right fork, the right knife, the right spoon. Conversation flows around you, polite and impersonal. Compliments on the food, observations about the weather, carefully neutral, comments about current events. No one disagrees. No one raises their voice. Everything is smooth, pleasant, utterly surface level. You're allowed to speak only when directly addressed, and even then your answers are expected to be brief and modest. How is school? Very well, thank you. What are you reading? A book for English class. Do you enjoy piano? Yes, very much. Each answer is met with an approving nod, and then the conversation moves on, back to the adults, back to topics you're not expected to understand. By the time dessert arrives, a towering lemon meringue pie that Bridget has made from scratch, you are exhausted. Not from eating, you have barely eaten anything, but from the effort of sitting still, sitting silent, sitting perfect for 3 solid hours. When the meal finally ends and the guests retire to the living room for coffee and brandy, you are dismissed, released, sent upstairs like a child half your age. You do not argue, you are grateful for the escape, for all its beauty. The house is lonely, your friends live miles away and spontaneous visits are not encouraged. Playdates must be scheduled, approved, supervised. The neighbourhood, if you can call it that, is not a place where children run freely between houses. Gates, hedges, and long driveways keep families separated. You spend hours alone, reading, wandering the grounds, sitting in your room. The silence is profound, broken only by the distant hum of a lawnmower or the soft click of your mother's heels on marble floors. You're surrounded by people, staff, family, but somehow you're always alone. The isolation is not something you noticed at first. When you were small, it seemed normal to play alone, to entertain yourself with books and dolls and imaginary friends. You did not know that other children in different neighbourhoods, in smaller houses, spent their afternoons running between backyards, knocking on doors, forming spontaneous games of tag or hide and seek. You did not know that friendship could be easy, unplanned, free. Here, friendship requires logistics. If you want to see a friend, your mother must call their mother. A date must be set, a time agreed upon, transportation arranged. James drives you to their house or they come to yours, always with a predetermined end time, always supervised, at least peripherally. The playdate unfolds with the awkward formality of a diplomatic summit. You're polite, your friend is polite, and after 2 hours, they leave. You go back to being alone. The neighbourhood itself is not designed for children. The houses are set back from the road, separated by walls or hedges or simply by distance. There are no sidewalks, no street lights, no places to gather. The streets are quiet, almost eerily so, travelled only by residents and the occasional delivery truck. You could walk for an hour and not see another child. Everyone is inside, behind gates, living private lives in private spaces. Sometimes you stand at your bedroom window and look out over the grounds, the manicured lawns, the perfect gardens, the empty tennis court. It is beautiful, all of it, but it is also isolating. There is no one to call to, no one to wave at, no one passing by. The world outside your gate feels impossibly far away, a place you visit occasionally, but do not really belong to. Even inside the house, you are alone more often than not. Your parents are present but preoccupied, always busy with their own routines. their own obligations. The staff moves through the rooms like shadows, efficient and silent, there but not there. You could go an entire day speaking to no one except Carolyn, who brings you lunch, or Bridget, who asks if you would like a snack. And even those conversations are brief, transactional, bounded by the invisible line between family and staff. You fill the loneliness with books. The library becomes your refuge, a place where you can disappear into other lives, other worlds, other families. You read voraciously, indiscriminately, anything you can find. You live vicariously through characters who have siblings, who go to public schools, who have messy, loud, chaotic homes. You envy them, even the ones facing hardship, because at least they are not alone. Sometimes you wonder if your parents notice, if they understand that you spend most of your time by yourself, that you have no siblings to play with, no neighbours to befriend, no easy access to the kind of casual, unstructured companionship that other children take for granted. But they do not ask. They do not seem concerned. In their world, solitude is not a problem. It is a sign of breeding, of self-sufficiency, of the ability to entertain oneself without needing constant stimulation or attention. And so you learn to be alone. You learn to find comfort in your own company, to fill the silence with your own thoughts, your own stories, your own imagined worlds. You become self-reliant, independent, capable of spending hours without speaking to another soul. It is a survival skill, though you do not realize it at the time. It is also a kind of loss, a quiet erosion of something essential, something you will not fully understand until much later, when you are older and realize that loneliness in childhood leaves marks that never quite fade. Your education is not left to chance. You attend a private school, a prestigious one, where the children of doctors, lawyers, and business executives sit in small classes taught by teachers with advanced degrees. Homework is rigorous. Expectations are high. You're being prepared, your parents say, for a future that matches your background. College is assumed, not discussed. Your mother has already mentioned Vassar, Wellesley, Smith. Your father wants you to marry well, to someone from a good family, someone who understands this world. Your own dreams, if you have any, are rarely asked about. The school sits on a hill overlooking the city, a cluster of brick buildings, surrounded by manicured lawns and oak trees. It is small, exclusive, expensive. Tuition costs more than many families earn in a year, though this is never discussed. The school's brochure emphasizes tradition, excellence, and character, words that sound noble but feel vague. What they really mean is that the school exists to educate children like you, children from families like yours, children who will go on to live lives much like their parents. Your classes are small, rarely more than 12 students, and the teachers know your name, your strengths, your weaknesses. They push you, not gently. Latin homework takes hours. Math problems are challenging, designed to stretch your thinking. History requires essays, long and carefully argued with proper citations. English class means reading books that are dense and difficult, books you would never choose for yourself but that you slowly come to appreciate. The school has rules, many rules, all unwritten but rigidly enforced. Uniforms must be worn correctly, skirts at the knee, blouses buttoned to the collar, hair must be neat, pulled back or cut short. Makeup is forbidden, jewellery limited to small earrings and a single ring. The goal is uniformity, a visual representation of the school's values, discipline, modesty, conformity. You do not question these rules. No one does. They are simply the way things are. Your classmates are girls like you, from families like yours. Their fathers are executives, surgeons, senior partners at law firms. Their mothers sit on the same charity boards, attend the same luncheons, play tennis at the same clubs. You know these girls, have known them for years, but you're not sure you would call them friends. Friendship here is complicated, layered with competition and comparison. Who has the better grades, the nicer clothes, the more impressive family connections? Everything is a performance, even at school. There are expectations, always expectations. You are expected to excel academically to earn grades that reflect well on your family. You're expected to participate in extracurriculars, the right ones. Choir, yearbook, French club. Sports are acceptable if they are individual and graceful. Tennis, swimming, horseback riding. Team sports are discouraged. Too much sweat, too much aggression, too unfeminine. College is not a question but a certainty. Your mother has already begun mentioning schools, always the Seven Sisters, always institutions that confer prestige and connections. Vassar, where she went, Wellesley, where her sister went, Smith, Bryn Mawr, Mount Holyoke. These names are invoked reverently, as if they are not just schools but gateways to the life you're meant to live. You're expected to attend, to major in something appropriate, English or art history or perhaps education, and then to return home, marry well, and replicate the life your mother has built. Your own dreams, if you have any, are not part of the conversation. No one asks what you want to study, what you want to do, who you want to become. The path is already laid out, clear and narrow, and you're expected to follow it without deviation. Sometimes, late at night, you allow yourself to imagine other possibilities. Maybe you could be a writer, a teacher, someone who lives in a small apartment in the city and makes her own decisions. But these fantasies feel dangerous, disloyal, and you push them away. Because this is not just about you. It is about the family, the name, the expectations that have been building for generations. You are being prepared carefully and deliberately to take your place in this world. And preparation, you're learning, is another word for pressure. When summer arrives, the family moves to the summer house, a sprawling cottage, though cottage is a misleading word for something with 8 bedrooms, on the coast. The migration requires planning. Trunks packed, staff coordinated, the main house closed up and covered, life at the summer. House is slightly more relaxed. You swim, sail, attend clam bakes and garden parties. But even here, there are rules. You do not go to the public beach. You do not associate with the local children. You stay within the boundaries of your world, invisible but firmly drawn. The summer house sits on a bluff overlooking the ocean, its white clapboard siding weathered by salt air and sun. It has wide porches, screened windows, and a long wooden staircase leading down to a private beach. It is beautiful in a different way than the main house, less formal, more airy, but no less exclusive. Your family has been coming here every summer for as long as you can remember, and so have the same families from the same circles back home. The summer colony, as it is called, is its own small world, insular and self-contained. Packing for the summer takes days. Your mother oversees the process, directing Caroline and Bridget as they fill trunks with linens, dishes, clothing, everything needed for 3 months away. You pack your own trunk under your mother's supervision. Bathing suits, sundresses, tennis clothes, a raincoat, sweaters for cool evenings, your good shoes for dinners and dances. Books, always books. Because even at the beach, you will spend hours alone, reading on the porch while the ocean murmurs in the distance. The drive takes most of the day, James at the wheel, the car loaded with luggage. Your father follows in his own car, unable to stay for more than a week before returning to the city for work. He will visit on weekends, arriving Friday evening and leaving Sunday night, a pattern that continues all summer. Your mother, however, stays for the duration, presiding over the summer house the way she presides over the main house. managing staff, organising gatherings, maintaining the social calendar. Life at the summer house is slower, warmer, slightly less rigid. You're allowed to go barefoot on the porch, to wear your hair loose, to spend hours in the water, but even here the rules are clear. You swim only at the private beach, never at the public one down the coast where local children play. You attend parties and dances at the yacht club, never at the town pier. You're friendly with the other summer children, but you do not befriend the townies, the year-round residents who wait tables at the club or work in the shops along Main Street. The days have a rhythm. Breakfast on the porch, mornings at the beach, lunch served cold on the terrace, afternoons spent reading or sailing or playing tennis. Evenings mean dinners at the club or clam bakes on someone's lawn, long, languid affairs where adults drink gin and tonics and children roast marshmallows and everyone pretends the summer will never end. You wear sundresses and sandals, your hair lightened by the sun, your skin tanned despite your mother's warnings about freckles. But even in this more relaxed setting, you're aware of the boundaries. The summer colony is a bubble, as isolated in its way as your neighbourhood back home. You see the town, of course, when James drives you into the village for ice cream or supplies, but you do not interact with it. The local children watch you from a distance, curious, maybe envious, and you watch them back, wondering what it would be like to live here year-round, to have this beach be your everyday rather than your escape. By August, the summer house begins to feel like a prison, beautiful but confining. You're tired of the same faces, the same parties, the same conversations. You're ready to go home, even though home is no less isolating. And when September arrives and the trunks are packed again, and the house is closed up for another year, you feel a strange mixture of relief and sadness. Glad to leave, but already nostalgic for the sound of the ocean, and the smell of salt air, and the brief, fleeting freedom of summer. Your mother's life is a study in quiet management. She doesn't cook, clean, or do laundry, but she oversees everything. She plans menus, arranges flowers, writes thank you notes, manages the household budget, and maintains the family social calendar. She sits on charity boards, organises fundraisers, and attends luncheons where the real work is networking, not eating. She's poised, gracious, and endlessly competent. But she's also, you suspect, deeply tired. She has built a life around appearances, and the effort of maintaining them never stops. You watch her sometimes, trying to understand what her life is really like. She's always busy, always occupied, but it is a particular kind of busyness, one that leaves no tangible evidence. She does not produce anything, does not build or create or earn. Her work is invisible, performed behind the scenes, measured in smooth-running households and successful social events and children who reflect well on the family. It is work, real work, but it is never acknowledged as such. Her mornings begin early, before you wake, with coffee and a review of the day's schedule. She meets with Mrs. Henley to go over tasks, with Bridget to discuss meals, with the laundress who comes on Tuesdays and Thursdays. She makes phone calls, dozens of them, coordinating playdates and luncheons and charity meetings. She writes notes on heavy cream stationery, thank you notes mostly, but also condolences and congratulations and invitations. Her handwriting is perfect, elegant, practiced. She manages the household finances, not the big picture, your father handles that, but the daily expenses. She keeps a ledger where she records every purchase, every payment to staff, every bill. She is meticulous, organised, capable. She could, you think, run a business if she were allowed to. But women of her class do not work, not for pay, not outside the home. Their work is domestic, social, unpaid. And so she channels her competence into managing a household and maintaining a social position, tasks that are endless and exhausting and never fully appreciated. Her afternoons are filled with obligations, luncheons with other wives, committee meetings for the hospital auxiliary or the garden club, shopping trips where she selects fabrics for new drapes or inspects flower arrangements for an upcoming party. She's always impeccably dressed, always perfectly composed, her hair done, her makeup fresh, her pearls in place. She's never, as far as you know, left the house looking anything less than polished. She sits on several charity boards, positions that confer status as much as they require work. She organises fundraisers, elaborate events that take months to plan. She recruits donors, coordinates vendors, oversees every detail from the centerpieces to the printed programs. These events raise thousands of dollars for hospitals, museums, schools. They are important, genuinely important, but they are also performances, opportunities to see and be seen, to demonstrate taste and generosity and social prominence. And yet, for all her competence, for all her effort, you sense a deep fatigue beneath the surface. She never complains, never admits to being tired or overwhelmed, but you see it in the way she closes her eyes for just a moment when she thinks no one is looking, in the tight set of her shoulders at the end of a long day, in the careful way she moves, as if she is holding herself together through sheer force of will. You wonder sometimes if she is happy, if this life she's built with such care is what she wanted or simply what was expected. You wonder if she ever dreamed of something different, something more. But you do not ask. These are not questions you are allowed to ask, not questions she would answer even if you did. In your family, feelings are private, carefully guarded, revealed only through the cracks that appear when the facade slips, and even then, only briefly. What you do know is that your mother's life is a kind of service, demanding and relentless, performed without recognition or respite. She maintains the household, upholds the family's reputation, ensures that everything runs smoothly, and in return she receives security, status, a comfortable life. But you are beginning to suspect that comfort is not the same as happiness, and security is not the same as freedom. And you wonder more and more if this is the life you're being prepared for, and whether you will have the courage to choose something different. You're beginning to understand that wealth does not equal happiness. The house is beautiful, but it is not warm. The meals are elaborate, but they are not joyful. Your parents provide everything, except the thing you want most, their presence. You have toys, books, lessons, trips, but you do not have spontaneity, freedom, or the kind of messy, loud, chaotic love you see in other families. You're learning that privilege comes with its own kind of poverty, a poverty of connection, of realness, of being known. The realization comes slowly, not all at once. It arrives in small moments, in the spaces between the perfection. You notice it when you see other families at church, the ones with 4 or 5 children piled into a station wagon, arguing and laughing and spilling out onto the sidewalk in a noisy tumble. Their clothes are not as fine as yours, their shoes are scuffed, but they touch each other easily, unself-consciously. A father ruffles his son's hair, a mother adjusts her daughter's collar with a smile. They seem connected in a way your family is not. You notice it when you visit a classmate's house, a girl whose father is a doctor, comfortable but not wealthy. Their home is smaller, cluttered with books and games and a dog that barks too much. The kitchen smells like something baking, and her mother calls from upstairs asking if you girls want a snack. There is warmth here, an ease, a sense that the house is lived in rather than maintained. You feel a pang of something you cannot quite name, envy maybe, or grief for something you never had. At home, meals are served in silence or near silence, each person occupying their own island of thought. Your father eats quickly, methodically, already mentally back at the office. Your mother picks at her food, her mind on the evening's obligations or tomorrow's menu or the thank you note she needs to write. You sit between them, chewing carefully, aware of every sound you make, every movement. There is no laughter, no teasing, no one reaching across the table to steal a bite of someone else's dessert. There is only correctness, formality, distance. Your parents are not unkind. They are not neglectful, not in any way that would be recognised as such. You're fed, clothed, educated, protected. You have a roof over your head, a warm bed, more material comfort than most people will ever know. But there are things you do not have, things that cannot be bought or scheduled or delegated to staff. You do not have your father's attention when you are struggling with homework. You do not have your mother's comfort when you wake from a nightmare. You do not have the sense that anyone in this house really sees you, knows you, understands who you are beneath the dress and the manners and the perfect performance. You have tried in small ways to bridge the distance. You have lingered in your father's study, hoping he will look up from his papers and ask about your day. He does not. You have sat beside your mother on the sofa, hoping she will set down her book and ask what you're thinking. She does not. The silence stretches, heavy and unyielding, and eventually you retreat to your own room, your own solitude, because at least there you do not have to pretend. There are moments, rare and fleeting, when the walls come down. A time when your mother laughed, really laughed, at something you said, her face transforming, becoming younger, lighter. A time when your father put his hand on your shoulder after you played a difficult piano piece, his grip firm, his voice quiet. Well done. These moments are precious because they are so rare, small glimpses of the people your parents might be if they were not so constrained by their roles, their obligations, their own upbringings. But mostly, what you have is wealth, comfort, security, a life that looks perfect from the outside and feels hollow from the inside. You are learning that money can buy many things, almost everything really, except the thing that matters most. It cannot buy connection. It cannot buy presence. It cannot buy the feeling of being deeply, truly, unconditionally loved. And so, you grow up in a beautiful house that feels like a museum, surrounded by people who are there but not there, learning to smile and perform and present yourself as the perfect daughter, while inside, quietly, you ache for something you cannot name, something you have never had, something you're beginning to suspect you never will. The holidays are elaborate productions. Thanksgiving involves 20 guests, a £20 turkey, and a table so long it requires 2 flower arrangements. Christmas means a tree that touches the ceiling, wrapped gifts stacked like architecture, and carolers hired to sing on the front lawn. Everything looks perfect. Everything is perfect. But it also feels rehearsed, like a performance for an audience that is not there. You smile for photographs, open presents with appropriate gratitude, and go to bed exhausted, not from joy, but from the effort of pretending. Thanksgiving preparation begins weeks in advance. Your mother consults with Bridget over the menu, reviewing recipes, making lists, ordering a turkey from a specialty butcher 40 miles away. The guest list is drawn up, invitations sent, responses tracked in your mother's leather planner. Seating arrangements are debated, revised, finalised. Who sits next to whom matters more than you initially understood. Certain guests do not get along. Others must be separated for business reasons. The entire meal is a careful choreography of social diplomacy. On Thanksgiving morning, the house fills with the smells of roasting turkey, baking pies, simmering cranberries. Bridget has been in the kitchen since dawn, her face flushed from the heat, her apron dusted with flour. Mrs. Henley oversees the dining room, setting the table with military precision. 2 flower arrangements, 1 at each end, crystal glasses at each place setting, silverware laid out in the correct order, more pieces than you have fingers. You are tasked with folding napkins, a job your mother insists you do properly, each fold crisp, each corner aligned. The guests arrive in waves, filling the house with noise and perfume, and the rustle of coats being taken by James, who has been pressed into service for the day. Aunts and uncles, cousins you see once or twice a year, family friends whose names you can never quite remember. They admire the house, the decorations, the smells wafting from the kitchen. Your mother accepts their compliments with gracious modesty, deflecting praise to Bridget, to the florist, to anyone but herself. Dinner is served precisely at 3. The turkey is carved at the table by your father, a ritual he performs with solemn concentration. Plates are passed, dishes circulated, wine poured into crystal glasses. Conversation flows in safe, predictable channels. The weather, the meal, benign observations about current events. No one discusses anything controversial. No one disagrees. The goal is harmony, or at least the appearance of it. You sit in your assigned seat, eating slowly, smiling when appropriate, answering questions directed at you. How is school? What are you reading? Do you still play piano? Your answers are brief, rehearsed, designed to satisfy without inviting follow-up. Around you, the adults talk and laugh and drink, their voices blending into a hum that feels both comforting and alienating. You are part of this gathering, but also apart from it, a child at a table of adults, seen but not quite included. After dinner, the men retire to the library for brandy and cigars. The women gather in the living room for coffee and gossip disguised as concern. The children, meaning you and a handful of younger cousins, are left to entertain yourselves. You retreat to the library's outer edges, curling into a chair with a book, half listening to the rumble of male voices discussing business, politics, the state of the stock market. The younger cousins play on the floor, building with blocks, arguing over toys. You feel too old to join them, too young to join the adults. You exist in a strange liminal space, belonging nowhere. By evening, the guests begin to leave. There are prolonged goodbyes, promises to do this again soon, hugs that feel obligatory. Your mother stands at the door waving, her smile never faltering. When the last car pulls away, she closes the door and leans against it, just for a moment, her shoulders sagging, then she straightens, smooths, her skirt, and begins directing the clean-up. You help clear the table, carrying dishes to the kitchen where Bridget is already elbow-deep in soapy water. The leftover turkey sits on the counter, already beginning to look sad and picked over. The house, so full of noise and people just an hour ago, feels cavernous again, empty. You realise that this is what holidays are in your family. Elaborate performances of togetherness that leave everyone exhausted and somehow lonelier than before. Christmas is even more elaborate. The tree arrives the first week of December, a towering Douglas fir that takes 3 men to manoeuvre through the front door and into the living room. It is placed in the corner by the window, positioned so it can be seen from the street, and decorated over the course of 2 days. Your mother oversees, directing placement of ornaments, lights, garland, a crystal angel at the top. The result is breathtaking. A tree that belongs in a magazine, perfect and untouchable. Presents accumulate beneath the tree throughout December, wrapped in expensive paper, tied with satin ribbons, labelled with elegant gift tags. On Christmas morning you open them one by one, exclaiming appropriately over each, the cashmere sweater, the leather gloves, the books, the jewellery. Everything is thoughtful, expensive, impersonal. You write thank you notes immediately, another task your mother insists upon, expressing gratitude in careful, formal language. Outside, carolers hired by your parents sing on the front lawn, their voices drifting through the windows. Neighbours stroll by to listen, to admire the decorations, to peer through the windows at your perfect tree. Your family stands in the living room, posed like a tableau, smiling and waving. It is a performance, and you're all playing your parts. Later, after the carolers leave and the neighbours disperse, you sit alone in your room, surrounded by gifts you did not choose and do not need, and wonder why Christmas feels less like a celebration and more like an obligation. Why joy feels like work. Why a day that is supposed to be about love and family leaves you feeling emptier than before. The garage is larger than most homes, a 3-car structure with space above for James, the chauffeur, and his wife. Inside sit your father's Cadillac, your mother's Lincoln Continental, and a third car, a convertible, used only in summer. The cars are always clean, always polished, always ready. James drives your mother to luncheons, your father to the train station, you to school. You have never taken a bus. You have never walked more than a few blocks. The car insulates you, keeps you separate, moving through the world without ever really touching it. The garage sits at the end of a curved driveway, set back from the main house but connected by a covered walkway. It is painted white to match the house, with black shutters and a cupola on top that serves no purpose except decoration. The doors are wide, designed to accommodate the large cars your father favours, and they open smoothly at the press of a button, a modern convenience your mother mentions to guests as evidence of your father's forward thinking. Inside, the garage is immaculate. The floor is painted concrete, swept clean every day. Tools hang in precise rows on pegboards. Shelves hold car care products, waxes, polishes, chamois cloths folded into neat squares. The smell is distinctive, a mixture of motor oil, rubber, and the leather cleaner James uses on the interiors. Everything has its place. Everything is maintained to perfection. Your father's Cadillac is black, enormous, with chrome details that gleam like jewellery. It has fins in the back, a long hood, white wool tyres. The interior is leather, soft and creaking, with enough room in the back seat for 4 adults. Your father drives it only on weekends, and even then, not far. Mostly it sits in the garage, polished and waiting, a symbol of status more than a tool of transportation. Your mother's Lincoln is pale blue, elegant and slightly smaller than the Cadillac. It has electric windows, a novelty she demonstrates to visitors, and a radio that picks up stations from 3 states away. She does not drive it herself, or at least not often. James takes her where she needs to go, waiting in the car while she attends her luncheons and meetings, then driving her home. She sits in the back seat, even when she's alone, because sitting in the front would blur the line between employer and employee, a line she is careful to maintain. The third car, the convertible, is your father's indulgence. It is cherry red, low and sleek, with a white leather interior and a top that folds down with the release of 2 latches. It is driven perhaps a dozen times a year, always in good weather, always for leisure. Your father takes it out on Sunday afternoon sometimes, driving along the coast with your mother beside him, her scarf tied over her hair to keep it from blowing. You have ridden in it only once, squeezed into the tiny back seat, the wind loud and the sun bright, and your father almost smiling as he navigated the curves. Above the garage, James and his wife live in a modest apartment. You have never been inside, but you imagine it's small, neat, functional. James has worked for your family for 12 years, since before you were born. He's quiet, dignified, unfailingly polite. He opens doors, carries bags, navigates traffic with calm efficiency. He knows your family's routines better than you do, knows where your mother likes to sit at the club, which route your father prefers to the station, which streets to avoid during rush hour. His wife, Eleanor, works part-time as a seamstress, mending clothes for families in the neighbourhood. You see her occasionally, hanging laundry on the line behind the garage or walking to the bus stop in the early morning. She's younger than James, softer with a quick smile. She waves when she sees you, and you wave back, but you have never had a real conversation. She exists on the periphery of your world, essential but invisible. You have never taken public transportation. The idea of riding a bus, of standing at a stop, of sitting beside strangers is completely foreign. James drives you to school every morning, picks you up every afternoon. If you need to go somewhere, a friend's house, a music lesson, a doctor's appointment, James takes you. The car is your cocoon, your buffer between the private world of your family and the public world beyond the gate. You move through the city without engaging with it, sealed inside leather and glass, observing but not participating. Sometimes you wonder what it would be like to walk somewhere on your own, to navigate the world without assistance, to be responsible for getting yourself from one place to another. But the thought is abstract, theoretical. In your world, independence is not encouraged. Self-sufficiency is not necessary. Everything is done for you, and in return, you surrender a small piece of autonomy, a small piece of the experience of being fully in the world. You're growing up under the weight of expectations you did not choose. You're expected to excel, to behave, to marry well, to carry forward the family name and the family wealth. You're expected to be gracious, poised, never loud, never messy, never too much. You're being shaped, carefully and deliberately, into someone who fits this world. But sometimes, late at night, you wonder who you might have been if you'd been allowed to choose, if you'd been allowed to be ordinary, if you'd been allowed to be free. The expectations are everywhere, woven into the fabric of daily life so thoroughly that you barely notice them until you stop and look closely. They're in the way your mother corrects your posture, the way your father's silence speaks louder than words, the way teachers and relatives and family friends all seem to be watching, evaluating, assessing whether you're living up to the family name. The name itself carries weight. It is on buildings downtown, on plaques in the hospital wing your grandfather funded, on the letterhead your father uses for business correspondence. It is old, established, respected. People recognize it, respond to it with a certain deference. You're not just yourself. You're a representative, an ambassador, a carrier of something larger and older than you. And that means your choices are not entirely your own. Your mother reminds you of this in subtle ways. When you slouch, she says, "Remember who you are." When you laugh too loudly, she gives you a look that says, "We do not behave that way." When you express interest in something she deems inappropriate, a career, a friend from the wrong background, an opinion that contradicts the family's politics, she steers you gently but firmly back to the acceptable path. It is not cruelty. It is guidance, or what she believes is guidance. She is preparing you for the life she thinks you should lead. Your father's expectations are quieter but no less present. He wants you to be intelligent but not too intellectual, accomplished but not ambitious, pretty but not vain. And above all, he wants you to marry well, to someone who will uphold the family's standing, someone whose own name carries weight, someone who understands the unspoken rules of this world. He has never said this explicitly, but you feel it in the way he introduces you to certain young men at the club, the sons of his business associates, the way he asks after them later, casually, as if he's not fishing for information about your interest. You're being groomed, though no one uses that word. Groomed to take your place in society, to host dinners and sit on charity boards and raise children who will carry the legacy forward. It is assumed that you will attend college, but only the right college, and only to acquire Polish, not a career. It is assumed that you will marry, and marry well within a few years of graduation. It is assumed that you will live a life much like your mother's, comfortable, respected, deeply constrained. But late at night, when the house is dark and silent and you are alone with your thoughts, you allow yourself to imagine other possibilities. What if you did not marry the man your father approves of? What if you chose your own path, pursued your own interests, lived your own life? What if you were ordinary, anonymous, free to make mistakes without the weight of the family name hanging over every decision? These thoughts feel dangerous, disloyal, like small betrayals of everything your parents have given you. And yet, you cannot stop them. They come unbidden, persistent, growing stronger as you grow older. You see other lives lived differently, and you feel the pull of them. The writer living in a walk-up apartment in the city, surviving on coffee and deadlines and passion. The teacher shaping young minds in a public school, making a difference that is real and tangible. The woman who travels alone, who makes her own choices, who answers to no one. You do not know if you have the courage to choose any of these paths. You have been raised to be obedient, dutiful, grateful. You've been taught that privilege is not just a gift but a responsibility, and that responsibility means maintaining the structures that created it. To walk away, to choose differently, would mean disappointing your parents, breaking with tradition, possibly even losing the safety and security that have always been yours. And so you exist in a state of tension, pulled between who you're expected to be and who you might want to become. The weight of legacy presses down, constant and heavy, shaping you even as you resist it, and you wonder more and more whether you will ever be strong enough to step out from under it, or whether you will spend your entire life carrying it, dutiful and unhappy, a perfect product of your upbringing and a stranger to yourself. Evening comes gently to the estate. The sun sinks low, casting long shadows across the lawn. The gardener has gone home. The cook is cleaning the kitchen. Your father is in his study, door closed, brandy in hand. Your mother is upstairs, removing her jewellery one piece at a time. You're in your room, looking out the window at a world that feels both vast and impossibly small. The house is beautiful. The life is privileged. But as the light fades and the quiet deepens, you cannot shake the feeling that something essential is missing, and you are not sure you will ever find it. The sky turns from blue to pink to lavender, the colours deepening and softening as the sun slips toward the horizon. The oak trees at the edge of the property become silhouettes, their branches reaching upward like dark fingers. The roses in the garden lose their colour, becoming shapes and shadows, their scent growing stronger in the cooling air. A bird calls, a last sleepy note before settling in for the night. The world is winding down, preparing for darkness, and you watch it all from your window, feeling like a witness to something you are not quite part of. Your room is dim now, the light fading, but you do not turn on a lamp. You sit in the growing darkness, your knees drawn up, your chin resting on your arms. The house around you is quiet, each person retreating into their own private space. Your father's study is down the hall, the door firmly closed. You can picture him there, sitting in his leather chair, reading the paper or reviewing documents, his brandy on the side table, the room lit by a single lamp. He looks peaceful in those moments, or at least less burdened. It is the only time he seems to relax. Your mother is in her bedroom, going through her nightly ritual. You can imagine it perfectly, because you have watched it countless times. She removes her jewellery first, each piece placed carefully in its designated spot. The pearls go in, the velvet-lined box on her vanity, the earrings in the small dish shaped like a shell. Her rings, which she removes only at night, are set beside a photograph of her own mother, long dead. Then she sits at the vanity, removes her makeup with cold cream, brushes her hair 100 strokes, and changes into her nightgown and robe. The routine never varies. It's a kind of meditation, or maybe a kind of armour being carefully removed piece by piece, Downstairs, Bridget is finishing in the kitchen. You can hear faintly the clatter of dishes being put away, the sound of water running, a cabinet door closing. She will be tired, you think. She's been on her feet all day, cooking and serving and cleaning. But she never complains, at least not where you can hear. She'll finish her work, turn off the lights and make her way to her room off the kitchen, a small space that is hers alone. You wonder what she thinks about in those quiet moments before sleep, whether she's content, whether she resents the family she serves, whether she dreams of something different. The house settles around you, the way old houses do, with small creaks and sighs as the wood adjusts to the changing temperature. The radiators tick softly, a floorboard groans, the refrigerator hums in the distant kitchen. These are the sounds of home, familiar and constant, but they do not bring comfort tonight. Tonight they feel like the sounds of emptiness, of rooms too large and lives too separate. You press your forehead against the cool glass of the window and look out at the estate. The lawn stretches away into darkness, bordered by the hedges Mr. Wilkins keeps so perfectly trimmed. The driveway curves out of sight, disappearing behind the trees. The gate at the end is closed, locked, a barrier between this world and everything beyond it. You have everything a person could want, and yet you feel trapped, confined not by walls but by expectations, by the weight of a life you did not choose and are not sure you want. The stars are beginning to appear, one by one, tiny points of light in the deepening blue. You search for constellations, something your father taught you once, long ago, in a rare moment of connection. The Big Dipper, Orion's Belt, Cassiopeia. You find them, trace their patterns, and feel a small comfort in knowing they are the same stars people have looked at for thousands of years, that your smallness and confusion are not unique, that others have stood in windows and wondered about their lives and their choices and their futures. A single light goes on in the garage apartment. James and Eleanor settling in for their own evening. You wonder if they are happy, if their small space feels cosy rather than cramped, if their lives, simpler and less burdened by legacy and expectation, hold a kind of peace yours does not. You wonder if they look at the big house and envy you, or if they see through the facade to the loneliness beneath. The darkness is complete. Now, the estate has disappeared into shadow, only the faint glow of windows marking where buildings stand. You finally turn from the window and switch on your bedside lamp. The room floods with warm light, familiar and safe. You change into your pajamas, brush your teeth, go through your own nightly rituals. But as you slip under the covers and turn off the light, you lie awake in the darkness, staring at the ceiling, feeling the weight of the house pressing down. You have been given everything, and somehow it is not enough. The country club pool is where you spend most summer afternoons, stretched out on a lounge chair with a book you're not really reading. The water is chlorinated to a chemical blue, so clean it barely seems real. Around you, women in swimsuits and sunglasses sip iced tea and talk in low voices about things that do not matter. The new pool attendant, the Henderson boy who got into Yale, the scandal involving the club president's secretary. You listen without listening, present but absent, performing the role of the well-bred daughter who knows how to be seen without being noticed. The pool area is surrounded by a tall hedge, privacy from the outside world, though there is nothing beyond it but the golf course and more hedges. White lounge chairs are arranged in precise rows, each with its own small side table for drinks. Umbrellas provide shade, the canvas crisp and unstained. The concrete around the pool is smooth, hot under bare feet, and never seems to have a single leaf or blade of grass out of place. A pool boy, college-aged and deeply tanned, moves silently around the perimeter with a long-handled net, skimming the surface for insects and debris that barely exist. Your mother sits 3 chairs away, far enough to give you independence but close enough to monitor. She wears a one-piece swimsuit in navy blue, impossibly modest, and a wide-brimmed hat that shades her face completely. She has applied sunscreen with the diligence of someone for whom a tan represents moral failure. Her book, something literary and impressive, sits open in her lap, though you suspect she's reading the same page over and over, too distracted by the conversations around her to concentrate. The other women cluster in small groups, their chairs pulled together to form circles of gossip and judgment. They wear swimsuits in bright colours, floral patterns, always with matching cover-ups folded neatly on the chairs beside them. Their legs are shaved smooth, their toenails painted, their hair either tucked under bathing caps or styled to withstand humidity. They look like they stepped out of a magazine advertisement for leisure, or is essentially what they are, living advertisements for a life well-funded and carefully curated. Mrs. Patterson holds court near the shallow end, her voice carrying across the pool despite her obvious efforts to seem discreet. She is discussing someone's daughter, a girl who apparently left Smith after only 1 semester to marry a boy her parents did not approve of. The scandal is recounted with a mixture of horror and delight, each woman adding her own commentary, her own theory about what went wrong. You hear phrases like throwing her life away and what were they thinking and mark my words that marriage will not last. You turn a page in your book, a mystery you picked up from the library, and try to lose yourself in it. But the conversations seep in, unavoidable, and you find yourself half listening despite your best efforts. The women move from one topic to another, a seamless flow of social currency. Someone is redecorating. Someone else's husband was passed over for a promotion. The new tennis instructor is too familiar with the younger wives. Each piece of information is weighed, examined, filed away for future use. Children splash in the pool, their shrieks echoing off the water, but even their play is monitored, controlled. A lifeguard sits in a tall chair, whistle at the ready, enforcing rules. No running, no diving in the shallow end, no dunking. The children obey, mostly, because they have been trained from birth to follow rules, to respect authority, to behave appropriately even in moments of play. You watch a boy, maybe 7, pull himself out of the water and walk, not run, to the snack bar. His steps careful and deliberate even though you can see he wants to sprint. The snack bar sits at the far end of the pool, a small structure painted white with green trim. It serves hot dogs, hamburgers, French fries, ice cream. The smells drift across the pool area, making your mouth water despite the lunch you ate just an hour ago. But you do not get up, do not order anything. Your mother has made it clear that snacking between meals is unladylike, that it suggests a lack of self-control. And so you stay in your chair, hungry but obedient, watching other children line up with their allowance money, buying treats you are not allowed to want. A girl from your class appears dripping wet, her hair plastered to her head. She waves, and you wave back, but she does not come over. The invisible lines are clear. You're with your mother, which means you are not available for casual friendship. She understands this without needing to be told. Instead, she joins a group of other girls near the diving board, and you watch them with a mixture of longing and relief. Part of you wants to be included, to be one of them, laughing and easy and unself-conscious. But another part of you knows you would not fit, that the performance you maintain, the distance you keep, has already marked you as different. By mid-afternoon, the sun is brutal despite the umbrella. Your skin feels tight, hot, and you know you will have a slight burn despite the sunscreen your mother insisted you apply. Around you, women are gathering their things, preparing to leave before the heat becomes unbearable. Your mother closes her book with a decisive snap and stands, adjusting her cover-up. "Time to go," she says, and you nod, relieved. As you walk toward the changing rooms, you glance back at the pool. It shimmers in the sunlight, perfect and blue and utterly artificial. And you realize that the pool, like everything else at the club, is less about enjoyment and more about appearance. It is a place to be seen, to maintain social connections, to perform the role of the leisured class. Whether anyone actually enjoys it seems almost beside the point. At 17, you are told you will be a debutante. This is not a request or a suggestion. It is a fact, as inevitable as graduation or college. Your mother has already contacted the committee, paid the fee, and begun planning your dress. The debutante ball is where young women of your class are formally presented to society, a tradition that dates back generations. It is meant to mark your transition from girlhood to womanhood, your readiness for marriage, your official entry into the adult social world. To you, it feels like being put on display, packaged and presented like a prize at auction. The preparations begin months in advance. First comes the dress, an undertaking that requires multiple fittings, consultations with a dressmaker, and more opinions than any single garment should require. Your mother insists on white, traditional and appropriate, with a full skirt that will photograph well and a neckline that is elegant but modest. You stand on a platform in the dressmaker's studio while she pins and tucks, her mouth full of straight pins, her hands moving with practiced efficiency. Your mother circles you like a vulture, assessing, adjusting, offering suggestions that sound like commands. Next comes etiquette training, which feels absurd given that you have been trained in etiquette your entire life. But there are specific protocols for the ball, specific ways of walking, curtsying, holding your bouquet, being presented to the receiving line. You practice in your living room, walking the length of the oriental rug while your mother watches critically, correcting your posture, your pace, the angle of your chin. You feel like a show pony being trained to trot in a circle. There are also cotillion classes, weekly gatherings where you and the other debutantes learn formal dances, the waltz, the foxtrot, the box step. The boys who will be your escorts attend as well, awkward in their rented tuxedos, their hands damp and uncertain on your waist. You dance with boys whose names you know but whose faces blur together, all of them identical in their prep school haircuts and forced politeness. The instructor, an older woman with an iron grip and military precision, counts out the steps. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. You move through the motions mechanically, your smile fixed, your mind elsewhere. Your escort for the ball is chosen by your father, a boy named Christopher from a good family, the son of one of your father's business associates. He is handsome in a bland, unthreatening way, with perfect teeth and perfect manners and absolutely nothing interesting to say. You meet him twice before the ball, both times at carefully orchestrated dinners where your parents and his parents sit at one end of the table, making conversation while you and Christopher sit at the other end, struggling to find common ground. He asks about your interests. You mention reading. He nods politely and changes the subject to sailing. As the ball approaches, the preparations intensify. There are hair appointments, nail appointments, final dress fittings. Your mother's anxiety increases with each passing day, manifesting in sharp comments and constant adjustments. Your posture needs work. Your smile is not bright enough. You need to lose 3 pounds so the dress fits perfectly. You begin to dread the event, not because of the ball itself, but because of the weight of expectation surrounding it, the sense that this single evening will somehow define you, mark you, determine your worth in the eyes of society. The night of the ball arrives cold and clear. Your room is a chaos of preparation. Your mother, the hairdresser, the makeup artist, all fussing over you like you're a doll being assembled. Your hair is pinned and curled and sprayed until it feels like a helmet. Your makeup is applied with precision, dramatic but not too dramatic, pretty but not provocative. Your dress is lowered over your head carefully, a team effort to avoid crushing the skirt or smudging your makeup. When you finally look in the mirror, you barely recognize yourself. You look beautiful, you suppose, but you also look like a stranger, a carefully constructed fantasy of what a young woman should be. The ball is held at the country club, transformed for the occasion into something even more grand than usual. The ballroom glitters with chandeliers and candlelight. Round tables draped in white linen surround a polished dance floor. Flower arrangements tower on pedestals, white roses and lilies there, scent heavy and almost cloying. The other debutantes arrive with their families, all of you in white dresses, all of you wearing the same nervous smile, all of you performing the same role. The presentation ceremony is formal and strange. You line up with the other girls, bouquets clutched in sweating hands, waiting for your name to be called. When it is your turn, you walk forward slowly, carefully, your train held by a younger girl recruited for this purpose. You curtsy to the receiving line, feeling ridiculous and exposed, and then you are moved along, making room for the next girl. The whole thing takes less than 2 minutes, this moment you have been preparing for months, over in a heartbeat. The rest of the evening is dancing, dinner, champagne you're technically too young to drink but which is offered anyway. Christopher is an adequate dancer, steering you around the floor with mechanical precision. Your father cuts in for one dance, holding you at arm's length, his face proud and distant. Your mother watches from the sidelines, dabbing at her eyes with a handkerchief, moved by something you do not feel. By the end of the night your feet ache, your face hurts from smiling, and you feel hollow, emptied out. You've been presented to society, officially marked as eligible, available, ready. And you realize with a clarity that is almost painful that this is what your life will be. A series of performances, each one marking another transition, another expectation met, another role fulfilled. You are not becoming yourself. You're becoming what everyone else expects you to be. So tonight, as you settle deeper into your own bed, in your own home, maybe take a moment to think about what you really have. Not the things, not the status, not the appearances, but the real stuff. The connections, the freedom to make your own choices, the ability to be yourself without performance, the small, messy, beautiful chaos of a life lived on your own terms. The wealthy. Families of the 1960s had so much, and yet in many ways they had so little. They had mansions, but not homes. They had schedules, but not spontaneity. They had everything money could buy, and almost nothing it could not. They moved through beautiful spaces feeling deeply, quietly, persistently alone. And maybe that is the real lesson here, that wealth can insulate you from hardship, but also from life itself. That privilege can protect you from struggle, but also from growth. That the gates meant to keep danger out can also keep connection, realness and joy locked away. Tonight, wherever you are, whoever you are, you have something those wealthy families did not. You have the freedom to choose, to live messily, to make mistakes, to love loudly, to be yourself without apology, and that, more than any mansion or trust fund or family name, is true wealth. So rest easy. You are richer than you know. Good night, and may your dreams be filled not with what you're supposed to want, but with what you actually need.